So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Joni Parsons. I am the founder of Revel 11, and we're so happy that you've joined us today. I'm thrilled to have Shira Gill come on again after so many years. We were just talking, it's been 3 years. And one of the reasons why I love having her on is it's just an incredible reminder to get organized. And I will speak for myself, but I've never been much of an organized person. I have too much stuff and I buy too much stuff. So it's surrounding me all the time and it pulls my energy, and we'll be talking about that. But I just got through reading Shira's incredible new book called LifeStyled. Can you see it? It's like kind of the lights there, but it is fabulous. And what I love about it most, Shira, is that it's really a roadmap for life. There are so many juicy, wonderful ideas in your book to live a more meaningful and intentional life, which is something that I'm very committed to. And who else doesn't want to have that in their life as well? So welcome. Shira is a world-renowned organizing expert and the best-selling author of 3 books, Minimalista, Organized Living, and her new one, LifeStyled. She's a sought-after expert for media outlets that include the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, People, Forbes, Goop, Oprah, and so many more. She also has a very popular newsletter that we're going to put in the chat so that you can sign up there. But she was also on Good Morning America last week. Shira, you've just been all over the place. It's so great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I was just saying, I am just relieved I didn't pass out on national live television. Feels like a win.
Well, you did such a great job. I had the pleasure of watching it yesterday in preparation for our interview today. And I was like, oh, she's doing so great. And it's been so wonderful to watch your career thrive over the course of the last couple of years since you've been on Revel 11. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about your book. So as I said, there's just so many incredible nuggets in here. And we want all of our conversations on Revel 11 to be a workshop so that people have tools in their toolbox when they leave to, make their lives better, to improve, to have more meaning, to live more intentionally. And one of the things that we want to do is kind of check in with our audience today and get a kind of an intuitive hit about where you are right now. So let's play. So an intuitive hit in your areas of health and wellness. How are you doing on a scale of 1 to 5? Will you put that in the chat? So on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you doing in the health and wellness sector of your life? 3, 5, woo, 5, 4, 3,
Oh,
4, 6. Wow,
off
okay.
the charts. A lot of
So a
threes.
lot of 3s, a lot of in the middle. So
Yeah.
pretty good. Little litmus test here. So 3, 4, good. So nobody below a 3. Okay. Okay, now the second one is your home. Where would you say you are with your surroundings, with where you live? I would say that mine is a 2.5. I need Shira's help. So I'm just being really honest with you here.
I saw Colleen
Oh,
had a
we got a
5.
1. Good. Thank you for being honest. 1, 3. So a little bit lower in this sector. So we can always use some help, Shira, not in all areas, but in the
I'm
home.
here.
We're so glad you're here. Okay, and the final one, and I just want to say that there's more in the book, but we wanted to hit on these today. How is your relationship to your friends, family, and community? And I would say, for me on this one, it's a 5. How about you? 3, 5, 4, 5, 1 to 2, 3. Okay.
1.
1. Okay. Thank you so much for playing along. This is such a good way for us to start. So when you look at all of those numbers, Shira, what do you see?
Well, I mean, it all seems very normal and human to me.
Right,
I
yeah,
see a 0. I do this as an exercise, this kind of life audit exercise every year on New Year's on December 31st.
right.
And I always find it just a kind of great way to get a quick hit on how am I doing in all the different areas. I typically rank terribly low on leisure and recreation, but high, on career.
Yeah.
And obviously I rank high in the home front. But, there have been years where I feel very low with regard to like relationships and community. I think it's helpful to just do this exercise to check in with yourself and see
Mhm.
how am I doing? How am I feeling? Because often we're so busy, we're not even, aware of how we're feeling, or where there might be room to, dial things up or dial them down.
And we'll be talking about one thing that I think is so important to that point you just made, which is giving ourselves the space and time to really look around, to feel and to go inward and to see where we already are, where we are right now. So as we discussed, all of these areas could all use, for the most part, improvement. But I love the way you broke out the book because in the beginning, you talk about three different areas where you say are kind of the most important pieces to start with, which are adjusting the volume, creating systems, and habits. But just as an overall intro, can you tell us why you chose those three?
Yeah. So I had kind of a light bulb moment after, I mean, I've organized homes for nearly 15 years, right? So I've worked with every type of person, every type of house you can imagine. And then for my second book, Organized Living, I interviewed 25 professional organizers from all over the world. And I had kind of a light bulb moment where I realized there really are these three things that work together in harmony where if you follow these three kind of tools, I call them the toolkit, you can guarantee that you have an organized home, life, mind, anything. And I got this just from doing the same process again and again, I think for years, and realizing, with my minimalist philosophy, I always start with volume. So that's the area I'm tackling with people immediately is just the too muchness.
Mhm.
But then, of course, as an organizer, we want to look at systems and how do you implement systems so that once you've reduced the volume and it feels more manageable, you can contain, right? And then the last thing, which is habits, occurred to me because so many of the organizers who I interviewed were kind of lamenting that they would go and help their clients declutter and set up systems and you know uh buy the bins and the baskets and put the labels, and they'd come back a month later and everything would be a mess. And the light bulb moment that I had was realizing, oh, you can have the best systems in the whole world, but if you don't practice and maintain regular consistent habits, it doesn't matter, right? And all of that time and money and energy that we invest kind of can go out the window. And so that's how I kind of put together, okay, we always start with volume because frankly, in my opinion, most of us have a volume problem more than anything else. Then, yeah,
Let's just stop and talk about volume because I
yeah,
really want to do a deep dive into each of
sure.
these. So adjusting the volume, and this means adjusting the volume in your social life, in how much stuff you buy, but talk about some core tips in the adjusting the volume area, which you feel that people could take away, like three core ones.
Yeah. So I think, in the book, I write about adjusting volume as something where you can actually turn it up or turn it down. So the way that I think about volume is it's a tool where you're adjusting the amount of volume of either physical things, or it could be the amount of friends, it could be the amount of subscriptions you have. And I would say like 9 times out of 10, we want to turn the volume down, we want to reduce. But there are some examples where, like, say you feel lonely, you've moved to a new city, then maybe you want more friends or more connections or more community. You want to dial that up, right? The energy and the effort. So I think of it as like a really incredible tool you can use for anything, and some concrete examples of like where I've turned the volume down in my life to great effect is, saying no to so many things. So
It
um,
is a word.
no,
We can use it.
it's a
It's
powerful word,
really
and it's
okay.
hard.
Yeah.
But I would say like some easy low-hanging fruit are subscriptions. Like I've realized, working in business and selling programs, that most people who have subscriptions or memberships are banking on the fact that we're going to forget that we have them and never turn them off. So I recently realized I was subscribed to a whole host of things that I didn't even remember signing up for that I was paying for. So like a Hulu subscription, but I don't need Hulu. I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, right? So kind of auditing all of my subscriptions and memberships and turning the volume down on that. Likewise, email marketing. Like right now, we're in the season of holidays. Everyone I know is kind of
Crazy, isn't
drowning.
it?
And
Yes.
the digital clutter is a place where I would really say, like, look at how many news platforms do you subscribe to? Where are you getting your news from? Could you maybe constrain it to one or two trusted sources and unsubscribe from everything else? Likewise, with social media, I'm running a business. I do depend on social media, but I decided, I think maybe 5 years ago, that I was going to delete all of my social media except for one. So you can find me on Instagram, but that's it. Everything else I've deleted. And it felt scary to do, but it has freed up so much time and energy.
Fantastic.
And I know many people don't need to use social media at all. And I think, invitation to unsubscribe, mute, hide. But I think there's so many ways that we're being hit by kind of a constant influx of information and digital clutter. So to start thinking through, what can I unsubscribe from? What subscriptions do I just simply not use that I could both save money and, slow down the information coming at me? Can you audit your news and information and centralize it to one or two? I know many people, I forget what it's called, but you can get everything that you want like streamlined into one email, so that instead of getting 12, you're getting one.
Yeah.
Um, the other things I look at in terms of volume is other people's opinions. So, um, you
Thank you
know,
for that. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm a sensitive person. I rely a lot on feedback from other people, but I think the older I get, the more I've been able to kind of successfully filter out the noise of other people's opinions, and really looking at, who do I respect and value and want to seek out the opinion of, versus what some random person on the internet says, or I don't know. So that's one. And then the one other I just want to touch on briefly is your belief system. So I think I went through most of my life kind of on autopilot, believing that your beliefs are just your beliefs. Like you don't have control over them, right? They appear in your brain. And when I got certified as a life coach back in 2016, so it's been, I guess, about 8 years, I learned that a belief is just a thought that you have practiced, right?
Mhm.
And so our beliefs are completely malleable and flexible. And so I love to do a belief system audit, where you just take note of, what do I currently believe about myself? What do I believe about other people? And what do I believe about the world at large? And then you can kind of look and kind of comb through these beliefs and decide on purpose which ones you want to keep and which you want to work on shifting or changing. And I think that's some of the most powerful work you can do for yourself.
Well, and Shira, I love that so much because it also, talking about that roadmap, it gives you a roadmap to be able to say no. It's like, oh, this isn't matching my values, or, that doesn't really suit me very well right now in my life. So whether it's an event that you want to go to or some direction, at work, you can say, nope, this is my roadmap. I'm sticking with it. And that's what I love about your work is that when you're clear within your own self, then your life is much more clear in a path going forward, not knowing also that a path can veer off and that'll be fine. It will be fine or it will bring you back to center. You might go this way, but it gives you some boundaries around what you say yes and no to specifically. That no is so important. So let's move on to creating systems. And I think this is something that you're masterful at and about how can we get clear with these systems in our life, like even to the point of putting your keys in the same place every day.
Yes. So the way that I define a system is an organized framework that solves a problem. And so I am always coming up with creative systems. And the way that I think about it is like a system is effective if it works for you, right? There's no real rules to a system. It can be anything. So anytime I'm feeling stressed or strained or challenged in my life, I ask myself the question, what system could I put in place to solve this problem? And that's really how I've come up with all of my systems for my home, my life, my headspace have just been asking. So that's the prompt I want to share as an initial starting place is like anything that you're struggling with, if you ask your brain a good question, you will get an answer, right?
Yeah.
And and I think, it's easy to go through life just complaining as I often do, like this doesn't work, this is so frustrating. But if instead you kind of flip the script and say, how could this be easier or more fun or more efficient? So I can share a few of the systems.
Yeah, that would be great. And also, I mean, since it's the holidays, I love some of your ideas from Good Morning America last week. So maybe we can share those with
Oh,
our
sure.
audience too. So like couple and then maybe two from that.
Yeah, sounds great. So, I mean, I would say in terms of like running a busy family as a busy working woman, there are two things that I do pretty religiously that I think have been a really big game changer for our family. So, number one, if you've read my books, you might roll your eyes because I keep beating this down, but the inbox. So, we have one centralized place in our home, it sits in our entryway. It's a big oversized basket, so you can drop anything in it. And everyone in my family knows anything that needs attention, anything that's paper has to go in the inbox. I review it with my husband once a week on Sunday. That's it. Other than that, I never look at it, but it's just like a safe landing spot for all of those things that typically clutter up the house, the kitchen counter, the dining room table.
And what I love about that is that you also said, I look at it on Sunday. So you're not looking at it all through the week and saying, oh, I need to handle this.
Right.
It's like Sunday, I'm going through the inbox. So another tip.
Yes. And I came up with that just because I know how busy everyone is, and I am so busy, and I don't want to go through mail and bills every day. But I think if you can just say, and so Sunday is my next tip. So I do a Sunday meeting, Sunday family meeting, begrudgingly for my teenagers, but we check in for 15 minutes. We go through the calendar. We ask about rides and logistics. We ask about birthday presents. And this just came out of the constant feeling of mania around like the last minute. I need a ride here. Well, I don't have a car. I'm working. And so having this 15-minute Sunday meeting where we can all sit down in the living room, we all pull out our calendars. I kind of like divide and conquer with my husband. Can you do this ride? I can do this ride. I'll pick up this. We map out a loose plan for the meal planning for the week, which I'm terrible at meal planning, but we're like, figure out what we need so we can go to the store. And this idea for me of a Sunday reset of like setting yourself up for success for the whole rest of the week is really worth it. And I've timed it, the whole operation, like the meeting with the kids and the family is like 15 minutes. And then I probably have another 15 minutes with my husband ironing out logistics, and then I'll go to the store, come restock the fridge, wipe down the surfaces. The kids will throw their laundry in, and it's like we are set for the week.
Yeah, and in the book, which we won't talk about right now, but she has a really good idea for what you buy on Sundays. So I'll just tease you with that. I was like, that's a very interesting strategy. I like it. And then, so this is something that really stood out to me because, as I mentioned, I was so inspired last time that we chatted, and I started cleaning and organizing, but it was the habit that you mentioned earlier as well that didn't stick. And you talk about this in the book that, you work with people and then they get so frustrated because it's the habit that makes it happen.
Yeah.
And then we can have a beautiful, clean, organized home like you. So, or we strive to. So habits are critical. Like, what are 2 tips that you would say that would inspire people to do it and stick with it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I realized, habits are crucial because they literally shape our lives and our long-term outcomes. So, anything we do on repeat is going to shape our life. So, for me, just knowing that is kind of motivating. I think the thing with habits is you've got to make them micro, and you've got to make them as fun as possible. So, all of the things that I don't want to do or that I dread doing, I ask myself, how can I make it tiny and how can I make it fun? An example would be I hate doing dishes. I hate cleaning at the end of a long day. We now kind of divide and conquer in our family. So, one of my daughters washes the dishes, one of them dries. I do all the counters and all the clearing. My husband cooks, so that's why he's off for this. Um, but we turn on music, we talk about our day, and I challenge us to do it in 15 minutes or less. So it's like taking this thing that's such a drag. Like, I mean, maybe some people enjoy doing dishes. I really hate it. Now it's turned into this kind of sweet family ritual where it's like we're all so busy, but we know every night we're going to gather in the kitchen, we're going to turn on music, we take turns picking the music. Um,
Great.
and so that's one example. Another, in terms of making it tiny, is I really struggled for years to work out. And I don't like the gym. I'm not a runner. I just couldn't figure out how to make it happen. And so I wasn't working out or moving my body, which is no good for you.
How important.
So what I did is I challenged myself, and this was also during peak COVID where things were closed, our options were so limited. I challenged myself to just take a 15-minute walk first thing when I got out of bed, that before I did anything, before I opened the emails, checked the text, I would hop out of bed and walk for 15 minutes. And what happened was really interesting is once I started walking, I really enjoyed it and I loved the fresh air and it felt good in my body. And the walk started getting longer and longer. And now I walk every morning for 45 minutes. It's become an ingrained habit that I don't even have to think about. But I never would have done that had I said, I have to walk for 45 minutes. Right.
I
So,
get that morning ritual. I'm glad that it evolved because I think personally the morning ritual has been so important to me. And I think we'll do a whole Revel 11 on morning rituals because it does, like you talk about in the book, it just gets your day started properly, right? And it sets a tone. You can think when you're out for a walk or whatever it is that you do, but give yourself that gift of time to really set your day in motion. And that's your time, which you talk about a lot, how we really need to give ourselves space to breathe and to be and to think, and how important that is in all of this work to have a more meaningful and intentional life.
yes, especially if you're an introvert like me. And I'm very social, but if I don't have that like alone time to recharge, I am not fun to be around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would say that. So let's shift gears a little bit here. So in the beginning, we talked about 3 parts of our lives: wellness, our home, and community. And we're going to dive into here. So we're going to break up some and talk about some powerful tools in each of these areas. So wellness.
Okay. So here's what I figured out is I feel like the wellness and health world has focused on deprivation and the things you're not supposed to do or not supposed to eat. That doesn't work for me. I really am a person who loves and enjoys food. I hate restriction. I kind of like bristle when somebody tells me not to do something. And so, what I write about in the book in terms of health and wellness is like habit helpers that are positive additions. And so, I think even if you think about just adding one thing, like we all know, the research around we all need sleep, we all need water, we all need vegetables, right? Like we kind of know what to do, but it becomes so difficult because it feels too big. And so the things that I like to point to are how can you have like tiny wins in each category? So it could just be deciding, I want to take a multivitamin every day, or I'm going to get fresh air every day. I spend too much time in front of a screen. I'm going to add one vegetable. Like for me, I eat too much sugar. I know this, but every time I try to quit sugar, it's a massive fail for me. But instead, if I say, I'm going to add one green vegetable, then I'm eating healthier, right? And I don't feel deprived. And when I eat well, I don't crave sugar as much. So I think it's like my big tip here is think about little additions. Whether it's like, if you feel like it's sleep that's really suffering, what's one tiny micro shift that you could do? Is it putting your screen away earlier in the day? Is it, curbing the caffeine earlier in the day? Like tiny doable shifts that can compound to have a big result.
Impact. So I'll give you one of mine was not to eat chocolate at night. That
Oh,
really increased my ability to sleep. Tip for me.
that's so
To
interesting.
share. Yeah, very
Yeah, I'd
interesting.
love to see if other people listening have like tiny little health and wellness, micro changes that they've been effective at implementing. For me, it was like that 15-minute walk and adding a multivitamin, like so tiny. And my one for 2025 is trying to have a green vegetable at every dinner, which doesn't seem that hard. I think I can do it.
I
Um,
think you can too. So that sounds like atomic habits. Well,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
right on.
absolutely. Make it tiny, make it easy, make it fun. I see adding veggie sticks to my
Six
lunches.
lunches.
That's a good one.
And mine is I've been so busy lately that I've not been doing my morning routine, which I've been doing for years and years and years, like getting out and walking the dog. And it does really impact. If I skip a day, I never used to skip a day, and now I find myself doing that here and there.
Yep.
So I think it's really critical. So let's talk about the home. And this one really stood out to me was take the shame out. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think, the biggest emotion I see in my work is shame. And I think it can stop us in our tracks, right? If you feel shame, it leads to paralysis. Nobody takes, positive action out of a place of shame. And I think when it comes to our homes, women in particular, I think who bear the brunt of managing the home often or the pressure to do so, feel this sense of like, if I'm not doing it all perfectly, I'm a
Mhm.
failure as a woman or as a wife or as a mother, right? And I think there's no upside to shame. Shame, sadly, doesn't lead to anything good. And so I think of it as a waste of time. And I also think of it as optional. Like, there are plenty of things that I'm terrible at. And I've just decided to kind of banish shame from my vocabulary and decide
Like that.
either this is something I'm bad at and I want to be better at and I'm going to get some support, or it's something that I'm not good at and I actually don't care and it's okay. And there are people like that. Like I've met people who say, I love the mess of life. I love seeing my kids' art everywhere and like a reminder of kind of like what I've created. So, not everybody wants to have a perfectly tidy, orderly home. And I think there's so much pressure to do so. So I think also asking yourself, like, what's my idea of a dream home? How would my ideal home look and feel and function? And when you get clear on that, you will care less about other people's opinions or other homes that you see, because it's like what works for you. So
Mhm.
my home is uber minimal and uber neutral. And that works for me and my busy brain and my busy family. But many people would come into my home and think it was boring, or I don't know what they would think, but I'm sure many people would hate my home because it's not the right home for them.
But what I love about what you just said is take it's this is such a beautiful gift. Take shame out of your life, and it's an invitation to take shame out. So that's a gift for everyone today, including myself. Other things you said are edit, edit, edit. And how do you recommend doing that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the home, the thing that's been really helpful to my clients is starting with just deciding where you're going to donate to. So,
Mhm.
because it's hard to edit, it's hard to part with things for most people, I would say. Having a compelling reason, so whether you're finding a nonprofit in your local area, I had a client who really wanted to help refugees, and that really kind of spurred her to be like, I'm going to donate more because I know that this is going to a good cause and
Right.
having an effect. I think there are things that are tricky to donate, like textile recycling or e-waste. So the thing where I'd say just start by doing 15 minutes of research to figure out in your local area, in the city where you live, where are the easy places to donate that you feel good about donating to. So that's step one. Then, in terms of the tactical, I would say take it either one section at a time, or even like within a zone, so like within your entry, you could just do one category. Like if you have 15 minutes, you could say, all I'm going to do is clear the coats that don't make sense or get the summer stuff out of here. But it's, again, you've got to make it so micro so you don't get overwhelmed. So when I'm helping clients, we do one room at a time. But within that, I'm literally doing one drawer, one cabinet. And that way, if the phone rings and you have to go, you haven't unearthed an entire room and you're like surrounded by
Well,
chaos.
I think this is a really good time to talk about your challenge, which I know you do, I think a couple times a year, but the 15-minute decluttering exercise. Tell us about that, because I did this after we talked last time, and it is miraculous how much you can get done in 15 minutes. So
Yeah,
go.
it's wild. Okay.
It's wild.
So the 15-minute win is so simple. You literally pick one task to focus on for 15 minutes. You set a timer, you reduce the distractions, like, turn off your phone or tell your family you're busy, and you see what you can do in 15 minutes. And
Yeah,
I
it's
did this with a client who was so paralyzed in her home because it all felt like too much. And I said, let's set a timer for 15 minutes and see if we can just declutter your junk drawer. And we did it in 11 minutes. And that included like wiping it down, putting everything back neatly. And she said, I have stared at this drawer for 15 years. And I cannot believe it took under 15 minutes. And so there's so many good ones, like under your kitchen sink, under your bathroom sink, your handbag, your wallet, like little quick wins. Your nightstand is a great one. Um, and I think one at a time is going to compound to this massive change over time.
and
Um,
just I mean, just like your client said, we spend so much time thinking about doing something. Like if we just did it in
right.
11 minutes, 15 minutes or less, think about what our house would look like. I
Yes.
love that tool so much. That's
I mean,
such
the
a
mental load of thinking of, I feel that
mental
with
load.
like e-waste for me is very annoying because I have to drive to Richmond and drop it off at a specific place. But the amount of time I spent thinking about my e-waste, and then when I did it, it was like a 7-minute drive and drop off.
There we go. Such a
Yeah.
great example. Let's talk about community and building meaningful relationships, because that's so much better than in all areas, our family, our friends, instead of trying to be everything to everyone. So give us some tools in the community and relationship area.
Yeah, well, I think it's starting first with like, we all have such a different desire in terms of like our connection cadence. So that's what I call it in the book, is like curating your ideal connection cadence. So I think starting with, I always start with yourself. So how much time do you need on your own to reset or regroup or just think in a given week? And are you scheduling that and prioritizing it? Because I know for me, it's like you can't pour from an empty cup. So if I don't have time alone, I'm not going to be a great mom or great wife or great author or any of the things. Then I move out to family. So within your family, and you know, that could be your chosen family. It doesn't have to be your blood family. Like for me, I've had a very complex relationship with family. And so most of the people that I'm the closest with are not my blood family, but I feel like they're my family. So thinking about that like next layer for you of the most intimate family, how often do you want to see them and in what capacity? Asking yourself that question and then reaching out to those people and saying like, hey, I know we're all busy. Could we just do like a monthly brunch or whatever that cadence is that you're looking for? And then I go out to, friends and colleagues and acquaintances, and I kind of do the same exercise, moving out of the circle so that for me, this is like maybe a 20-minute exercise of kind of thinking it through and then taking the responsibility of creating that thing that I want. And I think for many of us, myself included, there's a feeling of like, everyone's so busy. No one has time to connect in a meaningful way anymore. I have had that feeling that has led to a feeling of loneliness or isolation or feeling cut off. I have kind of made it my job to create the things that I want and that I crave. And so in my life, that's automating a regular date with certain friends where it's just like every Tuesday we have dinner, or once a month we take a hike on this day. And then we don't have to go back and forth with all the scheduling. It's baking in the things that are important to you. I do the same thing with like community gatherings. Like, how often do I want to gather with community? And if I'm not being invited to anything, how can I bring the people in or make something happen? That's been kind of the biggest game changer in my life, is just saying, I'm not going to wait for the invitation. I'm going to create the invitation.
Yeah.
And,
Well, one of the great examples you gave is one of your friends. She said, she didn't want to have just a birthday party, so she created her own. I love that, because I'm all about birthdays. So,
yeah,
but it's living with intention and what you want for your life, right?
exactly. It's deciding, it's taking the time to get the clarity on what is a good enough life for you, what is a rich life for you, what kind of connections do you want to have and cultivate and foster, and then taking the full responsibility for making that happen.
And let's talk about clarity, because I love what you just said. And it goes back to getting clear and giving yourself that space to be able to go within and to really think about what it is, and that come up with that roadmap that you want to live by. Anything else that you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good comments in there I'm seeing too. I think so. There are three questions that I like to ask to help get clarity.
Mhm.
Number one is, what's being neglected that you care about deeply? Um, Two, what new result do you want to create? And three is kind of a two-parter. What do you want more of in your life? And what do you want less of in your life? And I find that simply by asking these questions, you can unlock so much information. I know for me, like when I ask what's being neglected that I care about, I can realize, like, God, I'm so busy with work and running around and tending to the kids. Like, I'm not putting enough energy into my relationship. I've been married. Um, I've been with the same man for 24 years. And so I can take him for granted. And it's just by asking a question like that, like, what is being neglected that you care about? What new result do you want to create? And these are perfect questions for the new year. So I would kind of advise people take these questions, carve out some time where you can be quiet and just write and kind of see what answers appear if you're open to receiving them.
Love that. Thank you. So let's spend some time talking about the holidays because
Mm.
here we are. It's the 10th already. I can't believe it. You had some fabulous tips, and why don't you will you please give us 2 tips for the holidays that are on your list?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I would say, I mean, I have completely rethought everything with the holidays. So I guess like my number one tip would be break the rules and decide what's most important to you during the holiday season. So rethink everything from gifting. How do you want to gift? Do you want to gift at all? Do you want to trade gifts for experience or a vacation or a party? Likewise, like I don't send out holiday cards because I've edited so many homes where people are like, what do I do with these holiday cards? And but it's looking with a critical eye at what are the things that are aligned and values based for the holidays, and what are the things that just feel like a custom that I've felt like a should for years. And so look with a critical eye at everything from your gifting, your decor, how you approach parties and events, and kind of craft a mission statement starting from scratch for your holiday season. So, a quick example is like this year we decided we want to go on a family road trip. That's what everybody wanted. So instead of doing holidays at home, we're going to hit the road. We're going to spend very little money on gifts and more money on travel and give our girls a few token things. Other than that, we only give gifts to the essential workers in our life, like teachers or people that we really value. But we don't give gifts to each other. Like Jordan and I don't exchange gifts. So I just am big into breaking the rules to do what works for you and your family.
I love that so much. Being a rule breaker myself, I'm going to think about that a lot. I love that idea. And it's such another invitation to, we're so like influenced by what society expects us to do. It's like, let's break the rules. Let's go. One of the things that I loved about your piece on Good Morning America was that you had a bag of, like if you were going to a party and you needed a gift, you just have them all in one space. I have them sitting on my shelf over here. I want to get a bag and put those in. But what's another one?
Oh yeah. So I talked about like the holiday tote, like having,
Right.
pre-wrapped
Yes, I
things like
love that.
wine and chocolate, grab and go. Um, what else? I mean, I'm big into reusing and being more sustainable. The holidays is the biggest time of waste of the year. So I would say like my new gift wrap hack is just one roll of butcher paper, a roll of beautiful cloth ribbon, and then putting in like a sprig of green or an herb like rosemary or thyme, a cinnamon stick, but all natural, all biodegradable, and you don't have to buy anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing this year too.
Good.
And I saw some amazing ideas on Instagram for just using a little rosemary and, making a little wreath and some little tiny red ribbon. It was beautiful with
Yeah,
the butcher paper. So all sorts of ideas out there. And being green during the holidays, well, and year round is really important to us here at Revel 11. So thank you for sharing that tip.
of course.
So if anybody has questions, please put those in the chat. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we do a little rapid fire questioning?
Ooh. Gosh, I mean, what would I want to leave you with? I think, I would just prompt everybody to think of one thing they want to add to their lives and one thing they want to subtract from their lives for 2025. I think it's a really easy way to improve your life that's like low hanging fruit. For me, I want less social media and less scrolling time in my life and more reading. So
Yes.
just by saying that now in front of all of you, I feel like I'm going to be a little more accountable. But yeah, I think just asking yourself those questions and thinking what are really small changes that I can make in the new year that could have a big impact.
Those are fabulous. And we're going to ask everyone that's joined us here today. So we all started by answering the questions about the home and the community and where you're at. But we want to ask you specifically, if you could do, after listening to Shira in this conversation today, what is one quick thing that you can do to have a win? So
Maybe in 15 minutes or less.
in 15 minutes or less. So one of mine is to get all of my gifts, my hostess gifts all in one place that's not sitting in front of me.
I love
So
it.
that's one. I love that
That's
idea
good.
so much. So put in the chat. I mean, I have so many that I want to do. I
Yeah.
want to clean out my desk drawers. So that's a quick win in 15 minutes or less. Who
Yep.
else?
Um, yeah, I want to see. And I mean, some ideas for this are like tackling the most annoying errand or task that's like cluttered up your brain. Um, Mine recently was to drop off textile recycling at my local textile recycling location, which seems so annoying, but again, is like 15 minutes and it's done.
Mhm.
Oh, I
So
see
here's some good
unsubscribe.
ones. Declutter my Christmas ornaments. I'm going to do that too, Kathleen.
Good.
Ship all my holiday gifts by Monday. Spend 15 minutes clearing extra stuff out of my office. I don't need 3 book briefcases. That's true. Recycle old iPads and phones. I mean, these are all things that we can add to our individual lists. Drop off e-waste. I like the textile idea. I wasn't aware of that, so I'm going to do a little investigation about that. Edit books and gift them. Great idea. Dog toys. Yes, haha. Thank you. We have a
We all
whole
need to
box
edit our
of dog
dog
toys.
toys.
Your dog's not gonna like that, but we
I
will.
know. They
Um,
just like
and
love. They don't need that
yeah,
many toys.
and like books, I've interviewed so many people here on Revel 11, so I've been gifting books, which has been really nice. Not gifting, but just giving away to other people. I've trimmed down the kids' gifts, which is great. You would like to reach out and touch them. That's so much better. Open that box. I mean, there's so many. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. And I'm going to write down these so that I can add these to my list too. Revel 11 book exchange. That could be fun,
Ooh,
Matthew. I like that.
so
So
fun.
thank you, Shira, so much for making all of these ideas so easy for us to partake in. I mean, it's so overwhelming to think about clearing out our house, but you make it so easy. And that's what I appreciate about you so much. And again, this roadmap of life is all in Shira's book right here. But before we leave today, I thought it would be fun to do a quick little just rapid fire questions. So here we go. I haven't done this in a long time, but I'm like, I want to do it with Shira.
Okay, let's see how I do.
Okay, let's go. So one piece of advice for being a mom, for all the
Mm.
moms out there.
Oh yeah, I would say set very clear, firm boundaries, but give lots of freedom within those boundaries. I think I have teenagers now and they crave boundaries. They crave somebody to tell them, but they want the freedom so desperately. So I started this even when they were little, just saying like, you know, you can have 5 bins of toys, but you get to decide what goes in them. Right.
Awesome.
So
Okay, that's great. Okay, one piece of advice for you, you're a businesswoman. How about all the other businesswomen like me out there?
mm, I would say pick a lane and try not to change course for at least a year. I think that is why I've been successful is I have wanted to change courses so many times or when things get hard, pick a new thing. but I think if you can stay the course with one main thing, and
Mhm.
my other sub tip would just be invest in support. That took me a long time to learn, but every time I've invested in support for my business, whether it's hiring a coach or a photographer or a marketing person, it's helped my business grow profoundly.
Fantastic. How about one piece of advice for being a partner?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I've been with my husband for 24 years. So, I mean, my number one tip is humor. Gotta have humor if you're
I
gonna be
think
with
that's the
someone.
number one. I don't think we need to talk any further about that. If you can
Done.
have humor in your life, that's what you need with a partner. So
Yep.
I'm just going to leave it there.
Great.
Getting ready for the holidays, we already talked about. How
Yep.
about approaching the new year? I like those questions. Do you have one more?
I would just say try a life audit. Try ranking the buckets in your life from 1 to 5, and then decide what needs a little TLC in the new year.
Wonderful. And I love this one the most for being a strong, independent woman.
Mm. Always trust your gut. Your gut's right.
Oh, that intuition is key, isn't it?
Yep.
And I read this lovely quote once, and I'm going to have to find it to get this specific one, but this person said, I have made a lot of money. I think it was Warren Buffett, actually. I have made a lot of money in my life, and I have listened to my gut 95% of the time, and the 5% I didn't, I wish I had.
Yep.
And I
It's
love that.
uncanny. Yeah.
Shira, thank you so much. You are such a gift. And
Oh,
to me and to our audience and to so many of your admirers and people who will learn about you. And I really feel like you've got so many amazing messages for all of us to intuit and actually do. So thank you for joining us. Happy holidays. I wish you and your family an amazing holiday season and an incredible road trip. So-
thank you so much.
Sounds
Thank
like
you. This was
fun.
a treat.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day today, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.